I moved back to Portugal after 14 years abroad, and I realized something funny. There were a few things I really should have packed in my suitcase, but they're not what you might think. Not cosmetics, not special kitchen tools, not supplements. I'm talking about cultural awareness. Because when you know how things work here, how people eat, talk, kiss, queue, you're not just surviving in Portugal, you're actually living it. Olá, eu sou a Catarina, a native Portuguese speaker and the founder of the language Unschool. I help foreigners find their voice in European Portuguese, and today I want to help you find your feet too, with some little known tips to make your new life here a lot smoother. This video isn't about grammar or vocabulary, it's about the unspoken rules that shape everyday life here. And if you want to go even further, I've got a free resource called Mini-Tuga. 6 tools to help you immerse in real Portuguese content and start noticing these cultural quirks in action. I'll tell you more at the end. Now let's jump in. 360-degree vision. Now the first thing I need to warn you about is the pavement, the sidewalk. I don't want you to step into unknown territory. The Portuguese calçada is very famous, and yes, it's beautiful, but you should stare at it at all times while you keep on moving. Not with the intention of admiring it, but to look out for dog poop. You will also need to develop a 360 awareness of your surroundings, because it's not just where you step that can be dangerous, but what falls from above may be an issue as well. I'm talking about leaky air conditioning devices. Seriously, you need to develop a 360 vision superpower in Portugal. Now, coffee. I don't think I've ever heard any foreigner talk about coffee as one item you can't find in Portugal. Yes, we have coffee, good coffee, I would say, which is debatable, of course. The issue lies in the culture around coffee. How it's served, how we drink it. As my Dutch husband puts it, you're thirsty and want to have a coffee, but you only get an espresso, which is the equivalent of a sip. It's funny, isn't it? You would think coffee is coffee, but how people consume it can vary a lot, culture to culture. So keep your mind and expectations open to a different meaning of this word. Lunch. Now, lunch is something we also may take for granted, but believe me, after having lived in 6 different countries, I know it's not a straightforward topic. When I lived in the north of England, people would talk about tea as lunch. It was noon. When growing up here in Portugal, my English lessons about tea, meaning a drink, went down the drain right there and then. In Poland, lunch is a 15-minute meal. Poles will focus on first and second breakfast and then in a more substantial early dinner. In the Netherlands, lunch is a repetition of breakfast, meaning bread, but savory this time, except I can say I have witnessed tireless directors eating bread covered in chocolate sprinkles. Dinner is then considered warm as it's a more serious meal. The funny thing is, in Portugal we will eat a warm meal for both lunch and dinner. Of course, there are exceptions, especially during the summer when we are more inclined to eat bread or a salad for lunch. What's funny is that we don't define lunch and dinner by the temperature of the meal. We say comer de faca e garfo, to eat with knife and fork. Sanhas. When I lived in the UK, I was flabbergasted at the ability of people to queue. No one had to say anything. You just followed indications, queue from here, and people obeyed. I confess I always felt the signs at supermarkets and especially at bus stops were meant for me. A bit egocentric, I know, because I would be inclined to queue from the exact opposite direction. In any case, what shocked me the most was to see, I believe it was in Liverpool, this is relevant, very neat queue in front of a row of 4 ATMs. 4. And there was only one queue. There are probably countries less capable of forming a queue, but the Portuguese are far from being experts in the matter. We have, however, created something that seems to confuse a lot of foreigners. As sanhas. They can look like this, but there are more modern versions as well, especially at pharmacies. The idea is to take one, just beware you won't knock down the whole machine. You literally need to hold the senha holder with one hand and carefully pull out the senha itself with the other. gently. I always rip it and then have trouble seeing my own number. Anyway, the small piece of paper will assign you a number, which will then be called out, either by an AI voice, if at a pharmacy. You can keep your eyes on the screen if numbers in Portuguese are still a mystery to you, or watch this video next. Or by a loud human voice in case you get the older version of English at a market, for example. At the supermarket, you just need to pay attention to the beep sound and the small screen showing red numbers. No shouting here. If you are at a market, the system allows you to go to another stall and get more things done, or you can simply wait with the other people who now have no incentive whatsoever to queue. Engaging in small talk may be a fun way to work on your Portuguese. Speaking of which, small talk is something essential to survive in Portugal. You won't get anything done before discussing about how the family is doing, about the weather, and the continuous increase in the cost of living. Even if you want to do business and want to get to the point, also assuming the other person is busy, it's still expected to talk about these topics. I really focus on helping my unschoolers become familiar with some idiomatic ways of talking about these topics, because really, small talk is everything in Portugal. And this was a big shock for me after living 10 years in the Netherlands, where people don't beat around the bush. The other day I wanted to buy some building material, and the guy told me his life story, even after I had paid and was ready to go. Now, kisses. So, sort of related to small talk is the fact that we kiss a lot. Women will kiss both women and men twice, always starting to move towards your left, okay, this way. Men will kiss women, but give a handshake to men. Of course, in business settings, everyone may just shake hands. In a family scenario, you may see men kissing men on the cheek and hugging as well. I find hugging is more common between men, for some reason. In short, we're kissers. Now, phone calls. You may be scared of making a phone call in Portuguese, and I get it. I always found those daunting in other languages. But the danger you may not yet be aware of is how to end a phone call. I've only been to the US, never lived there, but from the series and films I was always fascinated as to how quickly Americans would hang up the phone. Okay, see you tomorrow at 3. Bang. A Portuguese will go something like this. Okay, see you tomorrow at 3. Kisses, kisses, kisses. Take care. See you tomorrow. Bye, bye, bye. Com licença. Well, com licença, excuse me, is a bit formal for this example, but it won't hurt to show you that in case you ever call a service or so. The cultural difference is striking, isn't it? Now, roads. I seriously think you shouldn't enter the country without a certificate saying you have been warned about the specificities of driving in Portugal. I'm talking about holes in the road. I'm talking about sewage lids, not sure if that's what you would call them, often being the cause of you needing to buy new tires earlier than anticipated. But that's not all. They're not all placed on the same side of the road, hopefully in the middle of the lane so your tires won't get damaged. No, they're all over the place, so you're forced to zigzag your way around Portuguese roads. And I'm not done on roads. I wish I were, though. If you have seen an optician before moving here, I'm afraid you will think you've been deceived and might as well leave your glasses at home. Signs in Portugal, especially on the exits of highways, are more often than not covered by a tree. You may say this is trivial and pointless because these days we all use GPS, but it's the moments technology fails you that you want to rely on plain old signposts that you simply cannot. And finally, entering a new highway can be a life or death situation. When you think you have some room to be able to speed up and move to the lane, more to the left, you might be surprised to find there's no legway at all. The strange thing is, you never know. Sometimes they're short, sometimes there is room. And these are the moments where, when my husband is driving, I tend to close my eyes and pray. Now, patience. The last thing I want to mention is actually the most important thing. Patience is your biggest friend when moving to Portugal. And why do I say this? I hear a lot of people move here because they're looking for a slower tempo, to enjoy life more. One thing Portugal we teach you is about patience. Bureaucracy is a bit insane here, and you need to be patient to navigate it. I built a tiny house when I moved back to Portugal, and it took 11 days to assemble the whole house. But it took 2 years to get the building permit. Even though I'm a native speaker and grew up in Portugal, I wasn't quite prepared for how this sort of thing would work. The best advice I can give you here is bring the biggest dosage of patience you can and never ever ask the question, when will this be done? It's pointless and normally you have no control over it whatsoever. Just offer the builders a beer, well, I should say coffee. Invest on small talk. Give them a handshake, no matter how much cement their hands have. Don't expect them to answer your phone call right away, but boy, will they take their time hanging up. Now, lunch will take at least an hour, as it most certainly involves a fork and a knife. And whatever you say, do not compare us with the Spanish. We don't like it, and we don't take siestas, okay? Now, also, no slang is available for construction workers, I'm afraid, so you'll have to wait in an imaginary, unclear line for your turn to build something. So yes, bring patience, develop your 360 vision, embrace the kisses, and maybe prepare for your first awkward phone call. But most importantly, start noticing. The more you pay attention to the little things, how people talk, what they watch, the rhythm of daily life, the easier it becomes to really connect. And to help with that, I created the Mini-Tuga, a free bundle with 6 hand-picked resources to immerse yourself in real native Portuguese content. You'll start spotting things I mentioned in this video, like the lunch habits, how people chat, even how they say goodbye on the phone. You can download it for free in the link below, just check the description. Até a próxima, boas descobertas, and enjoy your time in Portugal.